Hello once again, and welcome to this topic that is the partition of Africa. So this is one of the wonderful topics that we are going to look at, and it is really a great topic. And not only that, it is also the very last topic in history Form 1. So I hope we are going to be together as we go through this wonderful topic. Now, on partition of Africa. So we are going to meet a number of terms in this topic, and the first one we'll be talking of scramble for Africa. Scramble for Africa. So when we talk of scramble for Africa, we mean competition among Europeans in grabbing territories in Africa. So there was that competition. When you talk of competition in grabbing the territories in Africa, that one is a scramble for Africa. And on the other side, when we talk of partition of Africa, now this one is dividing up or dividing of Africa into different states, which were divided among the Europeans or European countries. So the division of Africa into the European countries or amongst the different states in Europe, that one is called partition of Africa. So this one, it took place between 1884 and 1914. So between these years, 1884 and 1914, that was the period when European countries were scrambling or were partitioning Africa. So we are going to talk more on the same. Now let us look at the factors. What were the factors that led to the partition of Africa? Factors for the partition of Africa. So on these factors, we are going to look at a number of divisions of these factors. So we are going to look at the social factors, economic factors, as well as the economic factors, as well as political or strategic factors. So let's begin with the social factors. What were the social factors that led to the partition of Africa? So number one, under social factors, we talk of unemployment in Europe. So here, unemployed people were encouraged to look for new opportunities in Africa. So when there was that unemployment in Europe, then those people who were jobless, they were told to say, right, you have to look, you have to look for opportunities in elsewhere or in Africa. And also under social factors was the missionary activities. So missionaries and the other explorers opened up the continent for other Europeans who took a lot of interest in their reports. So we see to it that the missionaries as well as the explorers, they opened up Africa to Europe, whereby their reports, they attracted people to come. And also population pressure in Europe. So because of the increasing populations in Europe, colonial settlements would ease the problem of surplus population. So there was that increase in population in Europe. Then hence they wanted a place to for other people to settle. And also spread of Christianity, the spread of Christianity. So missionaries, they felt obliged to spread Christianity and civilize Africans in European ways. Mind you, we just looked at the slave trade, whereby that was an inhuman thing. It was regarded as inhuman activity. So with that, then they wanted to spread Christianity to civilize Africans so that they should stop participating in slave trade. Also, under the same social factors, we also look at abolition of slave trade. So this led to the exploitation of other resources in Africa for the European industrial sector. So when slave trade was abolished, it came to an end. Then European countries, they embarked on looking for other resources in Africa. They wanted to tap resources in Africa, other resources that could be used in their industries. And not only that, the effects of riders. So due to these riders, most of the Europeans, they wanted to build their empires and overseas settlement. So some of these writers, they were like Charles Darwin, also W.T. Stead. All these people, they wrote about Africa. They wrote a lot about Africa. Hence, Europeans, they wanted to build also the settlement in Africa. And apart from social factors for the partition of Africa, there were also economic factors. So what were these economic factors? Number one, need for raw materials. So European partitioned Africa because of raw materials which they needed in their industries. So they needed raw materials to boost their industries. As a result, they divided up Africa. And on this one, on the raw materials, we talk of rubber, coffee, vegetable, oil, timber, cotton, silk, and minerals. They wanted materials which they could build their industries. And also the need for markets for the manufactured goods. So Europeans, they came to Africa to look for places to sell their manufactured goods like clothes, sugar, guns, and many others. So they also wanted places to occupy places, to have places where they could turn those places into markets, because we talk of places where people were living. Hence, if those people under that claimed territory, they were under them, then they could say, all right, now we are together, we are the owners of this land, but we are selling you these things. So they wanted also to find market for their manufactured goods. So this one should also relate. You will understand it better when it comes to industrial revolution in form 2, whereby we say during that time it was the period when now people started, or in Europe, they started to manufacture things. They developed industries. So those industries, they were manufacturing a lot of things. Hence, they needed market. So that's why here we are just mentioning to say they wanted markets for their manufactured goods, because it was the period of that industrial revolution. And also reports by travelers, explorers, and missionaries, they gave information that Africa has a lot of raw materials and potential markets for the European goods. So also under economic factors, we see that the reports that were made by the missionaries as well as explorers, so reports by travelers. And also stopover ports. Britain wanted the southern and eastern coast of Africa for stopover ports on the route to Asia and India. So we see to it that the Britain also wanted to have stopover harbors or ports as they proceed to Asia. So they wanted to have those places as theirs as well. And also abolition of slave trade. So abolition of slave trade brought Europeans to Africa to foster the legitimate trade. So after slave trade was abolished or was stopped, it meant that it gave room for the Europeans to say, now, because there is no other trade there, let us go there to embark on another type of trade in Africa. So after the abolition of slave trade, they wanted to bring into Africa the legitimate trade. Also, independent control of trade. Colonization was seen as the surest way to have monopoly over given areas to maximize the profits. So they wanted to colonize the area so that they monopolize trade in that area. To say, for example, if France maybe has, maybe we talk of Congo, belongs to France, it means that all that area, the trade in that area, the French will be doing trade in that or the same area. And also prospects of valuable timber. So the discovery of rand gold in South Africa made European powers of the possibility of finding valuable minerals in some parts of Africa. So after they discovered gold in South Africa, therefore even other countries, they were still interested to say, all right, if gold can be discovered in South Africa, it means that even in other areas, there are also other resources there. So they were scrambling to say, all right, let's get Malawi, let's get this country, let's get this country. Maybe they could find, they were prospecting for the valuable resources or valuable minerals. Now, having looked at the social factors, the economic factors for the partition of Africa, this is now the time for us to look at the political factors for the partition of Africa. So, activities of King Leopold in Congo is number one, that is under political factors. So, King Leopold II of Belgium, with the help of Henry Morton Stanley, signed treaties with the Vili chiefs, and that one led to the panic by other European countries also to acquire parts of Africa. So we see to it that Belgium was the first country to acquire land in Africa. So with that then, other European countries, they wanted to follow the same. They were under panic to say, all right, we also need to have places in Africa. So political pressure in European countries as well. So public opinion favoring acquisition of colonial influences influenced governments in France, Germany, Britain, and Italy to acquire colonies. So people generally in Europe, they were favoring their governments to have they were forcing their governments to have colonies in or outside their countries. So those countries like France, Germany, Britain, Italy, they were forced by the public demand to say, have colonies outside our countries. So hence, they came to Africa and they were scrambling and partitioning Africa. And also advancement of military careers. So military, most notably in France, were always eager to come to Africa. So the soldiers in Europe, they were eager. They were so happy if they were sent to Africa or outside their country. So it was like an advancement of that military career. And also nationalism and prestige. Every European nation was determined to prove its prowess. So colonies were regarded as assets of imperial prestige. So we see to it as the European countries, they wanted to show their power, their prowess. Prowess means power. They wanted to show that they were strong. They can have their country, and apart from their country, they can also dominate another territory outside their country. So to show, to have a colony, to have a country, or to dominate other areas outside their countries, it was also regarded as a prestige to the European countries. And also missionary demand for protection. So the missionaries were unable to overthrow what they were considered to be evil governments, but they asked their home governments to do it. So you see to it that the missionaries, when they came here, they came to spread the good news. As a result, they could not overthrow the governments to say, right, you are doing evil practices here, therefore we the missionaries, we have taken over your land. No, they could not do that. So they requested their home governments to say, come here, dominate this area, because the people are not so cooperative. They are still doing the evil practices. So the missionaries, they demanded protection from the areas where they were spreading their gospel. So the home countries, they managed to overthrow or to take over the areas where these missionaries were. And also European rivalries extended into Africa. So rivalries of the African powers were extended to Africa. So the rivalries of European powers, they were extended to Africa. Now let us look at the strategic factors, having looked at the social factors, economic factors, political factors, and now the strategic factors for the partition of Africa. Number one is the control of the Suez Canal. So Britain, that is the UK, France, Germany, and the other European powers, they were very eager to control the Suez Canal. So the Suez Canal was the key waterway between the east and the west. You know, the Suez Canal, it joins like the three continents, just like Africa, Europe, and Asia. So when we talk of the Suez Canal, it is like Africa is here. This is Africa. So the Suez Canal, where there is the Red Sea somewhere here, or the Red Sea. So the Suez Canal is here. That's where there is the Suez Canal. So the Suez Canal joins the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. So you know here the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea is here. So with the Mediterranean Sea here, above, that's where we have Europe. And here we go to Asia, Asia, something like that. So initially, the Europeans, they were coming from Africa using the sea route going to Asia, like that, like India and the Far East there. So they wanted to control the Suez Canal here so that if their ship would be passing through this Suez Canal and off there in the Red Sea, then they proceed to India and Asia. So they wanted to control that area, that is the area of the Suez Canal. So with that, then they wanted much control of the same area of the Suez Canal. So naval facilities for protection of the sea routes was another strategic factor. So Europeans, they wanted defense bases for their sea routes, ships and coal stations and the communication lines. So they wanted the defense bases in different areas so that they control their sea routes, because the sea routes now, this time, they were proved to be very effective in trade. And also source of military power. So France and some European countries, they use a large number of North African soldiers in many of their colonial wars. So they also wanted to get soldiers from Africa to fight anywhere where they wanted to extend their influence. So a source of military power. Now let us look at the events. The events that led to the Berlin Conference of 1884. So King Leopold II and the Congo. So King Leopold II, he developed interest in establishing his empire in the rich territory of Congo, and he asked H.M. Stanley, Henry Morton Stanley, to make treaties with the very chiefs of south of the river Congo. So France discovered Leopold's plans and was quickly engaging in its own exploration. So it started with Belgium, just as we have said. Then France discovered, saw to it that no, what Belgium is doing here is really something. Belgium is going to dominate Africa. Let us also engage. So the French naval officer by the name Pierre de Brazza was dispatched to Central Africa in 1882. So he obtained a treaty from Chief Makoko of Teke, north of the river Congo. In the same area, then France also sent his representative by the name Pierre de Brazza, while Belgium sent H.M. Stanley. So Britain was also deeply worried about the position of her missions in the Congo and about the safety of the Baptist missionaries there. So Britain was also concerned there with Congo to say, right, there are our missionaries there, the Baptist missionaries. So if this area falls into our friends, it means our missionaries are not going to live in peace there. And Portugal also claimed the area due to the odd treaties with its odd proxy kingdom of Spain and the Roman Catholic Church. So Portugal also claimed to say, in Congo, we also have the old friendship there with the people there, and also we have we were the first one to introduce Christianity there through the Roman Catholic Church. And all this created tension and conflict among Belgium, France, Britain, and Portugal. Hence, the conference was held in Berlin to look into the matter. So after looking at what was happening in Congo there was like a scramble. All these European countries, they were all claiming to say, we need to have a share, we have a share of this Congo. So a meeting was called in Berlin, Berlin, that was the Berlin Conference. So let us look at this one now, Britain and France. Mind you, we are looking at the factors that led to the Berlin Conference. So issues, number one, were the issues of Congo. Number two, we talk of Britain and France in Egypt. So Britain and Britain, or the British, and their puppet ruler, Tafik, were in the British and their puppet ruler, who was called Taufik, they were in control of Egypt. So, which means that the British, they put a ruler in Egypt. So, which means that the British indirectly, they are the ones who were ruling or taking charge of Egypt. So the French viewed this solo British intervention as an act of betrayal, which put France in the panic mode that saw them step up their colonial activities in Central and West Africa. So at first, Britain and France, they were jointly assisting Egypt to suppress the Arabs revolt. So what happened in Egypt there, it was like Britain monopolized the area, because earlier on it was like a joint effort to assist British to suppress the Arab revolts. But later on it was found that Britain alone was the one that dominated the area. So France was in a panic mode. That's why we are saying that France was in a panic mode to see that we are together with Britain. But look at Britain now. He has put a puppet ruler there. In other ways, Britain is the one who is commanding Egypt. So it was not good for France as well. And number three, again, the events that led to the Berlin Conference in 1884 were the French activities in the Congo and the, West Africa. So the French naval officer by the name Savonan Pierre de Brazza raised French flag over the newly found Brazzaville in 1881. So we have Congo Brazzaville. If you can go onto the map in West Africa, there is a country by the name Congo Brazzaville. So it all started with this gentleman, a French representative by the name Savonan Pierre de Brazza, Brazzaville. You can see to it. So they dominated that area in 1881, and they raised the French flag there to say this area is controlled by the French. So the process of this acquisition was through treaties signed with the Congolese king Makoko of the Teke. So that Congolese king Makoko, he was the one who allowed the French to be in control, in charge of his area. And the fourth one was the Brazza Makoko Treaty in 1880. So the treaty was in two documents dated September to October 1880. The first one the explorer declared that he had obtained from the king of Makoko reigning sovereignty. To say France now has been given the mandate to reign over the Congolese or the Congo area by the king of Makoko. So north of Stanley Poo, the cession of his territory to France, and Makoko had apparently put his mark on his declaration. So we see to it that it was a declaration. This document, it showed that King Makoko had given the territory to the French. The second part of the document declared that he had occupied in the name of France part of this territory on the edge of Stanley Pool itself. So that is Brazzaville. So this treaty installed France in a small territory whose importance was great, being situated at the doorstep of the navigable river Congo. So a competition was now opened in Africa between De Brazza and Stanley, and France had to support her champion to end to the end. So we see to it that now there was a competition that was there between Belgium now, who was represented by H.M. Stanley, and De Brazza, who represented France. So there was that stiff competition. So the French, they did not allow to lose that area to Belgium until they won that area by the name Congo Brazzaville. That is what is called even up to this day, because of De Brazza. De Brazza was the one who did that, who occupied that area on behalf of Congo, or on behalf of France. Another activity was the policy of French protectorates in West Africa in 1883. So the new political program entailed four main things. Number one, establishment of a protectorate on the coast from the Gold Coast to Dahomey, and making of political treaties on the Benue River, and also signing agreements with the chiefs in the eastern delta of Niger. And also another one, the establishment of protectorates at Bone, Old Calabar, and signing of treaties to the south of Cameroon. So we see to it that the policy of the French protectorates in West Africa, they were contained in the four main things. That is the establishment of protectorate in Gold Coast, that is Ghana, to Cameroon, and also making political treaties, and also signing agreements with chiefs, and also establishment of protectorates beyond the Gold Coast and Cameroon and to other areas. And also, let us look at the German interest in Africa. German developed interest in the colonization of some African countries. Germany emulated France, Britain, Portugal, and other European countries which colonized African countries. So later we see to it that Germany came into the scene after she saw that other European countries were also embarking on the scramble for Africa.